106.1 Rock Radio, Manchester's rock station. Our guest on Drive Time this afternoon is one of our listeners, but he's also an author as well. His second book is now out. Simon Gould is with us in the studio. Simon, we mentioned earlier on when we were chatting about your first book, which you published and did self-published yourself, and then you got the inspiration for Kindle. You saw that had taken off and gone in a big way. Mm-hmm. I want to go into the process of actually writing, because everyone has these thoughts, or I imagine I certainly do, of things of that would be a good idea. And then you think, well, maybe I've nicked it from a bit of John Grisham or a bit of Alistair MacLean or a bit of Jack Higgins or a bit of, wherever it may come. When you've actually got your idea, how do you go about actually from that initial idea and what you've written? Does someone have to proofread it to say, yeah, no, that's okay, that's original, there's no nick bits from anything like that, or how does it work?
They are proofread in terms of picking up grammatical and spelling errors, as any books traditionally are. There's nothing to say that any ideas have to be particularly original. Mm-hmm. In that kind of sense. I'd like to think a lot of mine are. Yeah. Certainly I take inspiration from news articles you might read. Yeah. And yeah, of course, you see bits on TV and films thinking, that might make an interesting plot strand. But anything I use, I do tend to try and adapt so it comes across as original. And I have no set agenda when I start to write the book in terms of where the book's going to go. I try and write a couple of chapters in advance. So I've always got an idea where the next 2 or 3 chapters might be going. But in terms of an overall plot, I do make it up as I go along.
And why not? And that's the nice thing, because you can make it up as you go along without sounding stupid with that comment. It's entirely... Did you know how the book was going to end before you started? Or
yes,
did you have...
yes and no.
All right, go on.
Originally, I wrote the ending when I was a third of the way through the book.
Right.
And then found by the time I got to actually the end of the book, the ending made no sense whatsoever, because I'd taken it in 2 or 3 different directions as and when I was going through the process. So honestly, when I'm writing, I've got no idea how it's going to end. I just pray that something will pop into my head when the time's right. And fortunately, so far, 2 books in, I'm not running out of ideas.
Good for you. And do you have a certain discipline that when you do write, you have to? I don't know, you lock yourself away in wherever, and you have music on in the background, or do you have silence, or can you just write a few pages here, there and everywhere in between when you've got 5 minutes spare? Or do you dedicate, and I'm going to sit down for an hour and I'm going to write?
I still work full time.
Right, yeah.
So it's quite hard to have a set routine in terms of when and how I'm going to write. Of course, I have rock radio on in the background when I do write. That's a given. But it's very much kitchen table. I try and do 1,000 words a day if I can.
Wow.
The book chapters are fairly short.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason, is that I can sit down and write a chapter. It may take an hour and a half, but that, as well as working full time, is the kind of writing chunks that I managed to write in. So, the chapters are short, but then again, a lot of people comment that because the chapters are short, they keep on reading, and they tend to get through the books fairly quickly that way. I
think that really is a key to reading books, is the length of chapters in particular. And you mentioned Patterson earlier on. He is... I read for the first time only this year one of his novels about Alex Cross. Is that right?
That's correct. That's the guy.
Yeah. And I was amazed that you go from one chapter and then you need to, right, that chapter's finished, I need to get into the next one. It's very cleverly done, and something that I hadn't really picked up as, I read all the time, particularly on holiday. It is a key to it. And I also noticed that Chris Evans, his recent book is very short chapters, which again encourage you you don't want to put it down because you need to find out what's going to happen next. So we've done fiction for the first 2.
Right.
What's the plan for number 3? Is it, you going to stay on the fiction mode, or are you going to do part fiction, or what?
No, yeah, I'll very much be staying on the fiction mode. The third book is a continuation of the series.
Right.
Viper Trail, the second book, is a sequel of sorts to Play in the Game. It can be read as a standalone novel in its own right. And the third book, with the working title of March of the Jackrabbits.
Sorry, March of the Jackrabbits.
March of the Jackrabbits.
Okay.
Taken from, half the Nine Inch Nails song March of the Pigs.
Yeah.
And a reference to John Dillinger, the American bank robber, whose nickname was the Jackrabbit. The third book does focus on a team of bank robbers, so it all makes sense when you read the book.
Simon Gould, Playing the Game, and the second book's called
Viper Trail,
which you can download right this second via Amazon for your Kindle. Is that right?
Both on Amazon.co.uk, both for 99p.
Top man. Simon, it's been a pleasure meeting you. Good luck, and long may your creative juices keep flowing, and we look forward to, what's the return of the...
March of the Jackrabbits.
March of the Jackrabbits, I beg your pardon, which is his third novel. Simon, be lucky.
Thanks for your time, Ricky. Cheers.